Applying to pharmacy school, presented by just me. Okay, if you guys don't know me already, I am Kenneth Ta. I'm the president of PPS, and I'm going to UCSD School of Pharmacy. Okay, thank you, Ryan. So for the application timeline, so it's going to look like this. There is the pre-Pharm CAS, then PharmCAS, then you're going to have your interview, and then after the interview, you'll hopefully be accepted. Definitely will be accepted. Considering you guys are here and here to learn about how to apply to pharmacy school, so make sure to pay attention closely. Okay, so I'm just going to give you guys a rough estimate of my timeline. It's not the best timeline. I definitely recommend starting way earlier. So PharmCAS opens around mid-July. So that's when, make sure to make an account before that so you can start right away. For me, I worked on my personal statement and letter of recommendation packet in August, and I asked for my letters in September. Not the best idea, so please ask earlier. Speaking from experience, it's not worth the stress because you have school at the same time, you have so many things going on, so please finish all your application stuff before school starts. Let's see. And then luckily, my letter recommendation writers submitted their letters pretty quickly in the same month. And in October, that's when I started filling out the PharmCAS as soon as I started getting letters in. And I worked on my personal statement, worked on my pharmacy school supplementals, and sent my transcripts to the pharmacy schools. Sent my transcript to PharmCAS, sorry. And then in November, I got my final letter submitted and finished all my supplementals and personal statement. And I submitted the applications on a deadline in December. Would not recommend. Please do it much earlier if you know which schools you want to go to, and do it strategically. I'll talk about that later on. So I applied to UCSD, which is non-rolling, and I applied to USC, which is rolling. And in January, I got interviewed at UCSD and USC 1 week apart, and USC got back to me really quickly in about 2 weeks, and I was accepted. And after getting accepted, you typically have about 2 weeks to accept your offer. So I was waiting for UCSD to see if I got in or not. And luckily, they accepted me on February 13th, which is 1 day before the deadline to put down your deposit for USC. So that was pretty lucky, saved me $1,000 there. So to prevent like all this worrying about putting down deposits or wondering if you should put down a deposit in the first place, please apply strategically, and I'll talk more about that later. Basically just apply to the school you want to go to the most first, so you don't have to, so you know whether or not you have to work on like the other school applications. Okay, first box in the pharmacy application timeline, pre-PharmCAS. Okay, so I could have sworn I put checkboxes, but pre-PharmCAS checklist. You're gonna want to create your pharmacy school list. You're gonna want to start writing your personal statement and start working on your letter of recommendation packet. I did a whole presentation on that in, I believe, winter quarter, so please check that out if you haven't done so already. And definitely ask for your letters of recommendation so you know whether or not you're going to whether you have like the requirements to apply to pharmacy school. So creating a pharmacy school list, what you should do is look at the prerequisites for the pharmacy schools that you're interested in and make sure to complete them. So plan for any upper divs that you need, or plan to take the PCAT if necessary. Do your research and check them out at our events, and make connections at our events as well. There's a lot of pharmaceutical representatives coming to our general meetings, pre-pharmacy day, NorCal trip, so definitely take advantage of these opportunities and go ahead and let them know who you are before they interview you or see you at interview day. And then For personal statement, please try to write it or start writing it as soon as possible, because I think it's a really important aspect of your letter of recommendation packet, because by including it and letting your writers see what you are writing for your personal statement, they have that much more insight into who you are. And letter of recommendation packet, again, do it as soon as possible so you can start asking as soon as possible. Okay, pharmacy school list. There are a lot of things to consider when deciding what pharmacy schools you want to apply for. So I listed, well, this is from past years and I added a bit more, but these are all very important things. Make sure they're accredited if that's very important to you. Location is probably a big factor to a lot of people, as well as cost, class size, prerequisites, and then whether they offer dual degrees. So a lot of this stuff, make sure to look into it and try to create a list where all the schools that you want to apply for satisfy all of the things you're looking for. So for me personally, I chose to apply to UCSD because of their small class size, only being around 65 to 70 people. So you have a better opportunity to really get to know each other. And their location in UCSD, I'm not sure if you guys have visited, but they have really great boba and food. So yes, and make sure to do your research, like I said before. So come to our pre-pharmacy day in around mid-January next year. Well, still up to debate. And NorCal trip and general meetings, as well as pharmacy school trip, so you can get to really know their school. You can hear a lot of great things about them through presentations and meeting with the reps at our events, but I really recommend going to the school because you never know how it's going to feel, the surrounding area or the vibe of the school. And a lot of these schools, some of them are pretty new and have like state-of-the-art facilities, so that's always fun to see. And meeting their students and faculty is really great opportunity because they're a very important part of like why you want to choose the school. Okay, once you have your list, like I said before, make sure to plan upper division requirements, whether the school needs anatomy or microbiome, and make sure to plan for any tests you have to take, like the PCAT. Okay, now we're moving on to PharmCAS. Okay, PharmCAS checklist. There's the checklist. Okay, first checklist, create a PharmCAS account and make sure to send official transcripts to PharmCAS. So try to do that as soon as possible so you don't have to pay like an express fee to get it shipped like very fast. Fill out the PharmCAS, of course. It takes a lot longer than you would think, so please like get on that. Make sure to schedule time out of your day, especially if you're doing it during the school year, but try not to, please. Finalize your personal statement. So you're gonna send out your rough personal statements in your letter of recommendation packet. So you're gonna submit the finalized version in PharmCAS. So that's why you have to finalize it. And then you have to complete pharmacy school supplementals. A lot of people dread these, but they could be kind of fun depending on if you like writing or not and the type of questions they ask. So look forward to that. And then finally, send your finalized application to pharmacy school. Okay, so this is what PharmCAS looks like. This is the home page. There are 4 different sections: personal information, academic history, supporting information, and program materials. Okay, so let's start off with personal information. So there are 8 sections for this: release statement, biographic information, contact information, citizenship information, parent guardian, race and ethnicity, other information, and military history. This is all very straightforward, so I trust that you guys can do this yourself. There shouldn't be anything too difficult about this. The other sections are where it can be kind of tricky. Okay, so academic history. This includes high schools attended, colleges attended, transcript entry, and standardized tests. So high schools attended, of course, where you attend high school, colleges attended, well, UCI and any community colleges that you have attended. And transcript entry is the really tedious part. It takes a long time to fill out, and you're always wondering whether, like, how to categorize a certain class. So I'll include some examples later on. And then standardized tests is just to include anything you took, like the PCAT. Okay, transcript entry, adding coursework and AP scores. So let's see. So for this, I'm showing you guys fall 2016 freshmen. So this is because I want to show you an example of what they require you to put in. So they require you to put in the course code as shown on your official transcript, as well as the course title and subject. Subject can be kind of hard for some of them, but just try the best you can, as well as how many credits, what grade. And once you put in your grade, they'll give you like a CAS grade, which is basically almost the same. So for your AP score or AP test, if you took any, this is where you would put all of them. And if you are filling out later and wondering like how to put it in, this is how you put it in. So you guys can look back on this PowerPoint that we'll send out in the email, and then you'll know how to put it in. Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay, supporting information. There are 7 sections: evaluations, experiences, achievements, licenses, and certifications, personal essay, COVID-19 transcript, hardships, and documents. I think number 6 is new because of what's going on right now. They'll have a opportunity for you to indicate if you had any hardships, whether like getting your official transcript, and then the document would be where they allow you to put your unofficial transcripts if like your registrar's office isn't able to send the official transcripts. So evaluations is, of course, the letter of recommendations from your letter writers. That's where you would start sending them the request, and that's where they would submit it. And there's also experiences. So this is where you talk about all of your extracurriculars, volunteering, jobs that you have worked. And achievements is where you input any professional or academic achievements, such as Dean's Honor List. Licenses and certifications is where you would put any professional licenses or certifications, such as like if you have a PharmTech license. Personal essay is where you submit your personal statement. Yeah. Okay, experiences, going more into that. So it's kind of straightforward. You put in what type of experience it is, what organization, and then how long you've been doing it for. So if you have been in the same organization for multiple years, just make sure to separate it based on like what positions you have. So you can see that I separated, let's see, different positions as a general member for PPS, then a treasurer, then external vice president, as well as president. So make sure to do that. And they'll also ask for like the contact information for your supervisor, so be prepared for that. Okay, program materials on the PharmCAS page. If you want to add programs or pharmacy schools that you want to apply to, you can just click add program, search for the pharmacy school that you're interested in, and then click on the plus button so you can add it to your application. Okay, so example, this is how you would, after you searched up, this is what it would look like, and that's how you add the pharmacy schools to your application. Okay, so looking at this, you can see that from each school, they list their prerequisites as well as requirements like resumes or where to complete their supplemental questions. So pharmacy school supplementals, there is something interesting about this. So some schools will include the supplementals directly on the PharmCAS application. Like you can see in the top right, the USC School of Pharmacy includes it there under the questions tab. But other schools actually have a separate supplemental on their own website. So for example, UCSD had a separate supplemental. So always make sure to double check what kind of supplementals they have to make sure you have fulfilled all their application requirements. I know someone who forgot or didn't submit their supplemental. It was because it was like a separate website. So make sure you know whether or not they require it or where it is. And for supplementals, some pharmacy schools ask for 2 to 3 long essays, which are about 400 words max, while other pharmacy schools may ask for 6 to 8 short essays, which are about 1,500 characters max. And something to keep note of, for schools that require a separate supplemental, sometimes they usually charge a fee. So for example, UCSD charged $120. So be prepared to factor that into your costs. Okay, so typical themes of pharmacy school supplementals. So why our school? Always, well, you can definitely expect them to ask that question. So really make sure you know the answer to that question, whether it's their curriculum or their location or just what their focus is. Yes, so please don't be blindsided when they ask you that question. Why pharmacy? No surprise, they want to know why you won't go into pharmacy school why you want to go into pharmacy because it's a really big commitment, a lot of money and a lot of time. So they want to make sure you're making the right decision and you are dedicated to going all the way at their school. So a good way to really get an answer to why pharmacy is to know what is pharmacy. So make sure to research that. Definitely check out our general meetings next year because you can elaborate on all the different types of pharmacy there is so they know you have done your research, and that will make them a lot more, they'll look upon you more favorably because they know like you've done your research and you know what you're getting yourself into. And then what makes you unique or stand out from others? Of course, pharmacy schools will want to know that because there are a lot of applicants. Yes, a lot of applicants. So make sure you know why they should choose you over others. Yeah. Okay, some other topics to consider. So what community service have you done? Community service is a really big part for some schools. For example, I know Western, because of their surrounding population, they really take into account community service. So make sure to try to perform community service if you haven't done so already. And that's why PPS has a lot of volunteering events throughout the year. So you guys can help out the community while also learning like all the different ways we can help out the surrounding community. And then what are your hobbies? So pharmacy schools don't only want to know like, oh, you have good grades, oh, you have a lot of experience. They also want to know like who you are as a person, because at the end of the day, they're really trying to decide like, would I want to work with this person in the future? So knowing all this personal stuff about you really paints you as someone who is, I don't know, like really unique and they would really enjoy working with. So make sure to always try to answer this question honestly and to make sure like they know who you are. Okay, and what's the current issue, healthcare related, that you believe needs more attention? So they do this so that they know you've been paying attention to the healthcare world, because as a pharmacist, you're not only just going to be performing your duties, you're also paying attention to everything that's going on in healthcare right now. So make sure you do your research, whether it's going to Pharmacy Times or reading our pharmacy topic of the week. Just make sure you know what's going on in the world, because they might ask you a question about this in the interview if they don't already ask you in the supplemental. Okay, submitting your PharmCAS application. Oh, by the way, if anyone has any questions, feel free to like type it in chat or just ask. Okay, so submitting your PharmCAS application. make sure to start and submit it early, preferably before the school year starts, like I said. So some pharmacy schools have early decision, which is where you apply early to your school and it locks you into like not applying for other pharmacy schools, but it's a really good way to show like that you're really interested and committed to the program because you applied early and you know like this is the school I want to go to. So that really shows them like, oh, like this person really wants to go to our school. Maybe we should consider them because they really know about our program and they know what they want. So there's also another distinction, rolling admission versus non-rolling admission. Know which schools employ what. So rolling admission is when basically the earlier you apply, the more times it will be considered. So let's say you interview early, let's say September, but you don't get in like the first round of interviews. There's going to be another interview, let's say October, and then you'll be considered against the applicants that have interviewed for October. So the earlier you apply for rolling admission schools, the more chances you will have to being considered for their program. Versus non-rolling admission, doesn't matter how early you apply, they choose out of everyone at one time. So schools like UCSD and UCSF do this. So be strategic. If they're rolling admission, do it as soon as possible. If they're non-rolling admission, you can put that on, you don't have to work on the application right away. You can work on the rolling admission schools first. Okay, so don't immediately submit every application at the same time. That's a pretty bad idea because you might get a lot of interviews in the same weekend and you, although you might think you're prepared for that, it can be really draining considering how long the interview days are. Also, let's see. Oh, is there a question in the chat? How do we know which schools do rolling admission? You go to their website and they'll usually have it listed. If not, you can always email their admissions committee. Okay, so don't submit every application at the same time. You don't want to have to do more work than you have to do, because if there's one school you definitely want to go to more than others, make sure to apply to it first, and then that way you can get interviewed earlier and you'll have your decision, and you'll if you do get accepted, then you don't have to do the applications for the other schools. So that's a really good way to save on money and time and effort. Because pharmacy schools almost always interview on a Friday or Saturday, if you submit all of them, like I said, they might land on the same day, and it's some schools don't really allow for like a change in interview dates, so be careful with that. So cost of submission, for my year at least, it was $175 for the first application and $55 for each additional application. So be sure to factor that in, as well as all your traveling costs, hotel costs, stuff like that, and plus any supplemental fees that they have if it's a separate supplemental. Oh. Okay, next part we're going to talk about is the interview. So pharmacy schools usually conduct interviews within the confines of an entire interview day. This day can last from 3 to 7 hours. It typically comprises of check-in, welcome lunch, school tour, essay, interview, and student and faculty panels, among other things. So let's see, I have some suggestions for interview day. So during check-in, welcome lunch, if you have the opportunity, please try to converse with other applicants or students or faculty when given a chance, because it can really calm down your nerves and you can learn a lot about the school or other people. Yeah, some things to consider. So you might have to skip class, work, or volunteering to attend the interview day. So be careful, or keep that in mind. It's very difficult to reschedule an interview day, like I said. Other things to consider: travel costs. If it's a faraway school. Weather on the day of, so make sure to bring an umbrella if you see that it's gonna rain. If you don't, it might be a bad time for you. Also consider parking and traffic, so make sure to look these up before time so you aren't late for the interview because you couldn't find parking or you didn't know there was traffic at this particular time, so make sure to keep that in mind. Okay, so chat question, can you tell us more about the essay part? Oh, thank you, essay part. So some schools have essays, not all of them. So it'll be a really short essay with a prompt. I don't have any, I don't want to give away the example for my school, but it's really nothing to worry about. Just make sure you, the prompt isn't, Moni's question? Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Thank you. The essay part, no, yeah, it's kind of like a short supplemental in a way, but they're really just making sure that you know how to write and can write in like a clear train of thought. So don't really worry about that. You have plenty of time for it. For Moni, do we give schools our availabilities or do they just give us a random day? So no, you do not give them their availabilities. They just give you a random day. So be prepared to ask for work off or just skip school. Yeah, and then of course, if you have any midterms or whatever that day, make sure to contact your professors and let them know if you can make it up or anything. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So continuing on with the interview, so pharmacy schools have a different styles of interview. So there is the traditional interview, typically 2 to 3 interviewers comprised of faculty and current students. There's also multiple mini interview or MMI. There will be around 6 to 12 stations, each with a scenario or question. So if you like something very different or something that requires you to think very fast, this might be one for you. Hybrid MMI, there's about 2 to 5 MMI stations, one of which includes a traditional interview. So out of the 2 schools I applied for, UCSD had a traditional interview, whereas USC had a hybrid MMI, which was really not too bad. I know when some people hear MMI, they are very scared because of the different scenarios, but please don't be afraid. It's not too bad. Just be yourself and answer how you would in a normal situation. Yeah, and then it's great because if you mess up really badly in one of them, you always have a new fresh start with another station, so that's fun. And they also include the traditional one and a hybrid MMI, so your work preparing for your interview won't go to waste if you were expecting a traditional interview. And interviews can last anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour. Okay, next slide. Okay, questions, typical questions. Tell me about yourself. So please take this opportunity to not only tell them about yourself professionally and academically, make sure to talk about yourself personally so you can really distinguish yourself from others. And also why pharmacy, of course. These 3 questions they're probably most likely going to ask, so be prepared for them. Why this school? So make sure you know exactly why you're applying to this school, know about all their unique things about the school, as well as exactly why you want to go. So funny story for this one. So for why the school, I answered for UCSD was because, of course, I talked about their unique opportunities like small class size, as well as they do require their students to do a research project. I forgot to talk about that, but that is a good one, as well as their pass-on-pass system. But I talked about how they have this really good deep fried sushi place in UCSD called Katsu Cafe that I always go whenever I go to UCSD, and I knew that was a good move because they stopped the interview. They're like, "Oh, like what's the place called?" Like they're like, I told them, and they're like, "Oh shoot, we should go there." So that was pretty funny. Yeah, so definitely. Oh, sorry. Definitely check out the surrounding area and know, like, not only because of like what the school offers, but what the surrounding community offers as well. Of course, there's going to be situational questions. So examples are, if you are working with a teammate and said teammate doesn't pull their weight, what would you do? Or tell me a time when you as a leader solved a problem or conflict. So if you guys went to Pre-Pharm Day and went to the interview workshop with Dr. Christensen Grant, he gave a really good advice when he said to have a bank of different situations that you've experienced. This really helps because if you don't have any situations in your mind beforehand, it's really hard to think of one on the spot that really answers the question well. So if you have these beforehand, you can really fit the question with the situation that you experienced and answer the question more fluidly without stammering for like an answer. Yeah, so that's a really good thing. Make sure to do that. It really helps. Also, questions, there will be profession-based questions. So tell me about your experiences with the field of pharmacy, or what specific niche of pharmacy do you want to pursue? Again, these questions are really to tell that you're serious about pursuing pharmacy because you've done the research in with like volunteering or working or knowing about different niches of pharmacy, because a lot of people come in only knowing about community, but there's so much more. So they can really tell that you've done your research if you can answer this question. Okay, more interview tips. Let's start with the do's. So definitely shake the interviewer's hands among entering. That's very like, you should always do it in any professional interview. I don't know about this year though, considering what's going on right now. So, well, you'll have fun with that. I don't know if the interviews will be virtually or in person, but be careful. But generally, you always shake their hands among entering. Tell a story and elaborate on your answers rather than answering in a few words. So telling a story really reinforces your answer to the question because you support it with evidence and a story that you've personally experienced. But be careful with this because you don't want to over elaborate or go off topic. Just use a story to support your answer and no more. Okay, and make sure to smile and be aware of your facial expressions and stay engaged the whole interview day. Smile, you don't want to have like some weird expressions. If you're like mad or like confused, like be careful with that. Make sure to pay attention to what they're saying, especially when they're asking questions, because you don't want to like ask them to repeat the question because you didn't hear them or weren't paying attention. And especially when they're answering the questions that you ask, because it'll show that you care about their answers. You didn't ask a question because you wanted to ask a question. Make sure to talk with other applicants or faculty and students whenever you have a chance during the interview day. Like I said before, it really can calm me down. For UCSD, even though I'm president, I get pretty nervous when it comes to stuff like this. UCSD, I was really nervous going into it, like, oh, this is my dream school. I don't know if I'll do well in this interview. It's my like very first interview for pharmacy school, so just talking with the students during the student panel really calmed me down and really relaxed me. So I was able to do a lot better in the interview than I thought I would have done. So make sure to use this opportunity to calm down and also get to know the students as well as the school. And always ask questions at the end of the interview. It shows that you've prepared for the interview. And for interviews, it's not only about the school, seeing if you're the right fit for them. It's also you trying to find out if the school is the right fit for you. So use this opportunity to ask questions about the school that you wouldn't get elsewhere. Make sure they're good questions, and I find it a lot better if you ask somewhat like personal questions, such as, let's see, well, not personal questions, but questions that they would enjoy, like fun questions, like why do they enjoy the school or the surrounding area, and like what is something new and exciting happening at the school. So interviewers have to interview a lot of people throughout the day, and it's makes a really good impression if you can have them enjoying themselves while talking about something that excites them. Let's go to the don't. So don't fidget in your chair. If they have wheels, just calm down, stay still. Try not to pause without warning. Give them a notice like, oh, like I need some time to think about that. Because if you just pause without warning, it's like they're wondering like, oh, how long are they gonna pause for? Like, oh, that's awkward. Try not to make any quirky noises or outbursts. Just be silent when they're asking their questions. Don't speed through your answer because it kind of shows that like you're nervous, like you might have not thought it through. So make sure to like keep a consistent, like a normal speed when answering, and definitely don't lie. They can probably tell, and it's not good to lie in any case, of course. Just be yourself. Like honestly, my biggest advice for interviews would be yourself, be truthful, and then you'll kind of find it like not as an interview, but as like a conversation. Like that's the best way to go through an interview, just a conversation between you and the interviewers. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so what to wear for an interview. So if you're, well, for all genders, make sure your suit is tailored so it looks nice. And I know this picture shows like a notebook, pen, or resume. That's not really necessary, but it's nice. Make sure you do have a clean haircut and a dry clean suit so they know you put the effort into looking good for the interview, and they can really, you can be kind of memorable. And I would recommend colors that pop out, so try to avoid black because everyone else is wearing black. I would recommend like blue or gray because that always stands out. And for guys, personally, this is just me. I like tie clips, so definitely have one because it looks really nice. And if you do have one, put it between your third and fourth buttons. For women, only thing I would recommend, besides what they have in this picture, definitely try to wear flats. Don't wear heels just because it's nice, because you're going to be walking around for their tour or for between panels and interviews. Like it's going to be a long day, so definitely wear something that's comfortable because you don't want to be not on your best game because you're feeling like tired or hurting because you're wearing heels. So definitely try to wear flats. Okay, now moving on to acceptance. Like, good job, like you're accepted after going through the application and the interview. Yay, you're in your dream school, hopefully. This is what you're gonna do. So decision letters, some schools send a decision letter within days. I know Midwestern does it pretty fast because they want you to know like their decision really fast. They don't want you to have to wait for your acceptance. Most schools do it within 2 weeks. Some schools do it within a month. So USC did it for me in about 2 weeks. UCSD did it in about 1 month. So 1 or 2 weeks to 1 month of anxiety. So be prepared for that. But definitely have confidence in yourself. Like you guys are a lot better applicants than you would think. Okay, if you're accepted, you usually have 2 weeks to reserve your spot. So you have to put down a security deposit, can range from $0 for schools like UCSD or $1,000 for schools like USC. So these are non-refundable. If you don't apply strategically, you can end up losing a lot more money than what you used to apply for the school. So definitely apply for schools that you want to go to most first, so you don't have to spend deposit money or application money applying to other schools. And good news, if you end up going to the school that you put down a deposit on, it will be applied to your tuition. So don't think that the money is going to be wasted unless you choose to go to a different school. So rolling admission, if you're put on active consideration, then your application will be kept and renewed against the next interview pool of applicants. So like I said before, if unfortunately you don't get like an acceptance letter from the school, but the school is rolling admission, you will be put on active consideration and be continually considered against other applicants every time they do interviews. Okay, academic update. So after you get accepted to school and you say, yes, I want to go there or want to go to your school, make sure to update PharmCAS with your grades or classes for fall quarter. So like I mentioned before, transcript entry, you're gonna have to update it with your grades and with your classes if you change any classes from what you put in before. And you're gonna have to send your transcript to PharmCAS if you haven't been accepted already, or to your pharmacy school if you have been accepted already. And you have to complete your academic update by the deadline sometime in mid-February. And pharmacy school checklist, so they usually have a couple things for you to do before you enter school. So all of them will do a background check. They'll send you an email with a link to a background check website, so make sure to complete that. It's gonna cost, I think for me, it costs around like $79. So that's another cost. They also want you to be up to date with your immunizations. So something I know that I didn't get, and usually I think a lot of other people don't get it because it's not like normal, but you do have to get the hepatitis B vaccination. So they want at least 2 doses. So make sure to do it. Well, it takes about, first dose is the first time you go in, and then the second dose is 1 month later. So it only takes about a month to get both of them done. They also, my school or UCSD requires a TB test within 3 months of entering the school. So this isn't too bad. You don't really have to go to like your normal doctor. There's a lot of clinics that do it, like the CVS clinic. It's only about like $50, so not too bad. And CPR certification, I know UCSD requires this. You have to be certified before you enter school. Luckily, one of their student organizations sent an email advertising classes like right before school starts. So it was only $40, so that's something to look out for too. Okay, and final advice for applying to pharmacy school. Like I stressed before, in winter, get started as soon as possible. Start your letter recommendation packet, start your personal statement, put in the effort to get to know your letter writers by going to office hours and doing well in your classes, as well as getting a job or volunteering somewhere long-term. Start and finish filling out your PharmCAS application during the summer. Trust me, it's not fun doing it during the school year or doing it late. Just do it right away. If you aren't confident in whether your letter writers will say yes or not, just do it as soon as possible so you can get an answer and decide, and you'll know whether or not you need to work on getting another letter writer. And make sure to do your research on pharmacy schools and pharmacy. So come to PPS events. School trips, mixers, pre-pharmacy day, NorCal trip, journal meetings are a good way to learn about either pharmacy or the specific pharmacy schools. Make sure to read about pharmacy news so you're up to date on what's going on in the pharmacy world. Prepare for your interview. Definitely know why you want to go to each school, because that's going to be a question no matter what. Try to visit the school and its surrounding areas. So especially for schools where you have to like move and get an apartment to go to. It's really good to visit the school and surrounding area because location can play a big role in deciding whether the school is right for you. So definitely go on like school trips if possible, or pharmacy preview days to check out the school and the surrounding area. I know a lot of people like the school is like amazing, but the area really turns them off. So make sure you know beforehand so you decide whether or not you want to apply for them. Prepare different scenarios that you can use to answer questions. Like I said before, it's really good to have a bank of scenarios that you can draw upon when they ask you questions. And definitely prepare questions for the end of the interview. And buy nice interview clothes and have your clothes tailored. Okay, and make sure to be engaged with other applicants and pharmacy school students and faculty during the interview day. Don't like worry about like, or don't dread the interview the whole day. Make sure you take advantage of the opportunity of talking with or networking with other applicants and the pharmacy school reps. So it can really help you out during the interview day. And finally, my personal advice, I can't really see it because of Zoom. Have fun, do your best, and what does that say? Oh my God.
Be yourself.
Be yourself. Thank you. Yeah, definitely be yourself. If you do that, you'll have a lot easier time because answering questions like, yes, you should prepare for questions, but if you can answer them by just answering them as you would naturally by being yourself, that would be the best scenario. And that concludes, oh, it's a chat. That concludes the presentation. Does anyone have any questions? You guys can either type in the chat or just say it out loud. Okay. Tony asked, did you apply to UCI as part of school? No, because it wasn't open yet. It's the first application cycle will be this upcoming application cycle. Would I have chosen UCI Farm School over UCSD? That is a very difficult question because there are a lot of things to consider when choosing a pharmacy school. For some people, it's proximity to family. So UCI is a lot closer to my home than UCSD, so that might be a reason why I would want to choose UCI. But the problem with is with our starting schools, you don't really know what they require or what their program is like. So I personally, wouldn't have chosen UCI Farm School because I didn't know like all the details yet because they haven't released a lot of it. I didn't know if I had all the prerequisites. I didn't know if they had all the stuff that I wanted. The reason why I chose UCSD was because of because of the things that were unique to their school. So they have pass no pass. They have a small class size, and they require you to do a research project, which I thought would be very interesting since I'd never done research before. Also, the area for UCSD is something new, and I would have to live by myself for the first time. So I wanted to take the opportunity to not only go to pharmacy school, but also use the opportunity to grow myself as a person. So I would have chosen UCSD over UCI for those reasons. But I'm positive that UCI will open a great pharmacy school. Please look forward to all their information being released. Does anyone have any other questions? Do you have any suggestions for those that are trying to build relationships with their professors during this time, since it may be more difficult through Zoom? That is a very difficult question because this has not happened before, and I didn't have to deal with this. But a good start would be to turn on your camera and participate in class, because I know a lot of people mute themselves and turn off their camera whenever they're in class. So that's definitely no way for your professor to get to know you. So that's a good start. Also, of course, office hours will be different, but in a way, there'll still be office hours. So make sure to um, make sure to go through their office hours so there's another chance for them to get to know you personally, because I'm sure a lot of people are not in the are not like feeling like going to office hours during these like trying times. Additionally, just do well in your class. If anything, like if you're gonna ask a letter from a professor, please like at least put in effort like trying to learn and doing well in your class, because it shows that you really care about your education and what they have to teach you. Yes, Christina, if you do have like any questions for your professor that aren't answered during class or office hours, definitely do email your professor and to reach out to them, because I know even though they have a lot of emails, I'm sure they remember you more if you send them an email. I know I remember a lot of people who send me emails. Yeah. Any other questions?
I have a question about your personal statement. In the process of writing your personal statements, did you also ask like your peers or mentors to look them over before you submitted them?
So ideally, that would be the best thing to do, because I know past years they have recommended doing this, having your friends look over them, because especially because like they're your friends, they know who you are. So if you aren't really portraying yourself in the best way that you can in your personal statement, they'll be able to tell and tell you about it to really talk more about yourself in a better way in your personal statement. Um, that goes the same for anyone who really knows you very well. Um, Although it might not really apply to like your letter writers, but just people who know you well. And let's see. Yeah, for me personally, I didn't have it because of how late I started, and I have this weird thing where I want to see if I can do it without any help. But please don't do that. Ask for help from any of us if you need it. Um, yeah. Tiffany asked, do you have any tips for balancing work as a farm tech, school, and PPS? As you can see from my timeline, I did not really do that well. Don't like working is nice, but don't overwork. Um, Only take on what you can handle, because other stuff you have like school, family, extracurriculars do take up a lot of your time. So for me, I chose to work the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, the whole day, because that's when I was free. In hindsight, that is probably not the best way to work, because I know for a lot of us, the weekend is our time to really work on school and catch up on studying and homework. So that wasn't really the best idea for me. But if you're planning on working, please try to limit or find somewhere that can be flexible with your hours, especially since you're a student, and try to limit how much you work to what you can handle. Um, School, always be on top of things. So watch the lectures, pay attention, take notes, do your homework as soon as possible. Always review material that you've already been taught, and that way you won't have to like worry about cramming like the night before if you're super behind because you've actually been paying attention and doing all the work. If you're actively trying to learn, like you genuinely want to learn, you'll definitely remember it a lot better than before. And PPS isn't too bad because it's only Wednesday nights and Saturdays, so that is very easy to manage. But in general, just tips for balancing everything is time management. Make sure you manage your time well, whether it's using Google Calendar or just doing stuff right away. Like that's the best way to do it. Don't procrastinate. College is not high school. Vin asked, was any of your letters a recommendation from your pharmacist/manager? Yes. So generally, for one of your letter recommendations, schools would prefer if it was from a healthcare professional. So it is, one of them was from my pharmacy manager. Christy, with a possibility of virtual interviews, do you have any advice for an applicant to stand out without many of the in-person gestures? Oh, that's interesting because we did all of the board interviews through, well, virtually through Zoom. So standing out without many of the in-person gestures, just make sure everything is clean, whether it's like your camera's angled well, they can see like your whole body, not like how you can only see my head. Make sure they can see like that you're wearing professional stuff, maybe your hand movements if possible. Don't use a virtual background because it can mess stuff up. So just try to have a clear background as well. Let's see. Yeah, and honestly, like besides like the in-person stuff like handshaking, eye contact, they won't worry much about because you never know like where your Zoom thing is. But everything else will be the same. Just they'll mainly focus on the content of your answers. So definitely be prepared for that. Tony asked, how many schools did I apply to? For me, I applied to schools that I really wanted to go to. So I only applied to the 2 schools that I mentioned before, the UCSC School of Pharmacy and USC School of Pharmacy. But don't take it like those are the best schools, like the best schools. There are no like best schools. It's only the school that is most fitting for you. So a lot of past presidents or PPS board members have applied to, like they've done like so many different places, so many different pharmacy schools. So it really just depends on like what you're looking for in a school and if the school fulfills your needs. So check out all the schools, like even if it's a school trip for somewhere like you're not interested in, check it out because you're gonna learn something like 100%, like whether it's something you don't want to see in a school or something that like, oh shoot, I wish the school that I was interested in had this feature. Like you can always change your mind in some aspects. Any other questions? Well, what do you do? Why is your background like that, right? Okay. Okay. I know this is an important topic, so if you guys have any questions, I'll always be available for you guys to ask, whether it's through email or Facebook Messenger. Just message me. Even if I'm in pharmacy school, I really care about PPS and your guys' future. So please reach out to me. Even if you think, oh, he's busy in pharmacy school, like, no, stop thinking that. Like, just reach out to me because I really care and want to help you guys. Yeah. Yeah, so this will be posted in the on Facebook, and the PowerPoint will be available on the spreadsheet you see in our email. So yeah, if you want to see it again, just go there. Yeah. So thank you everyone for coming. I know because you came, you you're interested in pharmacy school, and I believe like with this advice, you'll, well, even without this advice, you guys will do great. Okay, thank you, everyone. Oh, that's right. I do have some other stuff to share with you guys. How do I? Treasure hunt presents. Okay, PPS treasure hunt. This is going to be the last one, considering our banquet is this Saturday. So please sign up for that if you haven't done so already, and make sure to complete the superlative form by tonight, 11:59 p.m. Treasure hunt. The clue is who became a sand mermaid at the PPS bonfire. To be honest, I don't really know the answer to this question. I'm really curious though who did. But if you do have an answer, send in your clue by filling out, or sending your answer by filling out the Google form on our email. And you can definitely find the answers on our PPS Facebook page, so be sure to check that out. Yeah, and the best adventurer who will uncover the treasure at banquet. So have fun. Okay, thank you everyone for coming to this meeting, and I hope to see you at banquet.